You are listening to the Cognitive Preference Podcast, where we explore the fascinating ways in which our brains process information, make decisions, and perceive the world around us. My name is Robert Brown. I'm here with my colleague Francis Sopper, who is the originator of the Kairos assessment, which is a series of questions that reveals how your brain prefers to think, listen, observe, move, read, and talk. You can take the assessment at kairoscognition.com to help you better follow along with the show. Today we're exploring a universal topic, how we cope with uncertainty. Inspired by Frank's latest newsletter, we'll explore the psychological impact, our cognitive preferences, and their influence on our behavior. Uncertainty is destabilizing. Whether it's the financial markets, climate change, or personal crisis, our natural aversion to unpredictability drives our actions. Frank notes that we're drawn to confident leaders because they mask uncertainty. We'll examine the stages of grief, as outlined by Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, and how they apply not just to personal loss, but also to broader societal contexts. Enjoy. Why do our brains react so negatively to uncertainty?
We have a prevailing myth that our brains are good at thinking, and they're actually very bad at thinking, that what they do almost all day long is react. So we're getting, and we've talked about this in our course series, we're being exposed to about 60 billion bits of information a second, and we are able to process 60 bits of information per second. So our brains are deflecting, and what they're sorting for is opportunities to be taken advantage of and threats to be avoided. And for the most part, your brain is trying not to think. So when you're driving at high speeds down a highway and something shows up in front of you on the road, your brain just reacts. It has an instantaneous reaction to take your foot off the accelerator, put on the brake, swerve, whatever you have to do. And that's pulling forward learned, remembered, trained response to what's showing up in front of you. And that's really what it's doing most of the time all day. Someone says something to you, you react with either pleasure or in any one of the possible negative ways. You could react insulted, you react with confusion, you react with hurt. And we're not doing any real thinking between the experience of something showing up and how we respond to it. In order to think, we have to work on that more consciously. And that takes a lot of attention and energy, and our brain is designed to be as efficient as possible. So it doesn't want to take attention and energy.
Okay, so maybe this is why we're drawn to leaders that provide that certainty. Our brains are trying to conserve energy.
Yeah, someone does the thinking for us.
Right, and why would they be lying?
And well, we don't even consider that. Why would they be lying is thinking. If the certainty causes you to calm down, relax, feel, yes, okay, this person knows the answer, this feels good. And to do the actual work of, is this person telling me the truth? That actually takes a lot of work. And a lot of people you can count on to be telling you the truth most of the time, and a lot of people you can count on to be lying to you most of the time. And if you've got those people well sorted, then actually you don't have to do a lot of thinking again. But even so, the people who tell you the truth most of the time occasionally don't tell you the truth. And the people who lie to you most of the time may either be accidentally or it happens to be in their particular advantage to tell the truth. Although my father told me about a relative of ours who said this relative would lie even if the truth would go down better for him. he was so habitual a liar,
right,
that he didn't even tell the truth when it would be to his advantage to tell the truth. And we've got a few people like that out there. So yeah, our brain doesn't like thinking. It likes certainty. And what it's doing is the information's coming at us, and the simplest form, it's opportunity or threat. Is this something, is this an opportunity? Is this something that will help me? Is this something that's will make me feel better? Is that ripe berry out there that I can eat? Or is this a threat? Is this something that will hurt me, maybe even be life-threatening, but more often something that will disadvantage me in some way. And so opportunity, threat, opportunity,
Okay.
threat, opportunity, threat.
right.
And then we have to pause and to think and to consider something. We have to do extra work. We have to kind of stop our attention to the flow of incoming and pull up what we have the ability to evaluate, consider, interpret, predict, plan, but it's effortful.
Right. You quote Elizabeth Kubler-Ross in your recent newsletter, Frank.
Yeah.
In her book, she describes the 5 stages of grief. Could you explain more about that and how you connect grief to uncertainty?
Yeah, Kubler-Ross was a psychiatrist, medical school professor, MD, in order to become a psychiatrist. And she got involved with some people at the University of Chicago Medical School who were trying to offer better support to people who had just been given a diagnosis of a terminal illness. Okay. So they were just told that modern medicine up to that point was not going to be able to heal them, was not going to be able to cure them, and that they were on a descent path to dying. And it was a group of doctors, she was a psychiatrist, and people from the philosophy department who were trying to, how can we support people that really is now outside of conventional medicine. Conventional medicine is to cure people, heal people. And now there's no cure. And in interviewing people in that end stage of life, she was able to recognize that most of them had a distinct set of reactions. So, and the first was denial. Mm-hmm. Well, this can't be true. I know that I'm in a major university medical center with the top doctors, and this must not be correct. That must be wrong. And that was an almost universal experience. And if you've been with people who have had to announce a death to loved ones, so if someone has to knock on somebody's door and tell them their loved one died, or if the doctor has to go into the waiting room and tell the people sitting there that their loved one isn't going to make it alive out of the operating room, they'll tell you the first reaction people have is no. Yeah, people, no comes right out of them. A full, forceful no comes out of most people. And and even though it's an authoritative person showing up at the door, it's the physician they met with at the beginning of the process showing up, there's not really any reason to doubt the truthfulness of the person coming to tell them this. Our brain reacts with no. Even though there's no rational reason to think no. Our brain just reacts no. Because go ahead.
It's just so powerful. It's like, because I've been in that situation before. I'm sure many people have, where a cop knocks on the door and, somebody that you love and care and knew really well throughout your life is gone.
Right.
It doesn't feel real. It's so powerful that your brain almost acts like a buffer against all of that pain.
Oh, it exactly acts like a buffer against all of that pain. That's exactly what it's doing.
Right.
The pain is so overwhelming that that's a defense to just to slow down the impact.
It's a defense mechanism.
Of that pain. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And that denial shows up. So these stages of grief, and I can go through them if you think that's something I should do, right, for this. But in short, they're denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. And Kubler-Ross realized that the grief was so powerful that our brains absorbed it slowly in these 5 distinct ways. That somehow our brain is adapted to put buffers between us and the complete realization of what's happened. Now, death is the most powerful and profound of the grief for most people, but we experience large and small griefs, and that's what's been so interesting for me in my work, is that I'm working with folks who are under very high degree flow of information. So they've got lots of stuff coming at them all the time. And 20 years ago, that used to be people with, or 30 years ago, that used to be people with job descriptions like air boss on an aircraft carrier. You were responsible for all of that movement, kind of convening on a very small space that was bouncing up and down.
Flying by the seat of your pants.
Yeah, exactly. So, but now the kinds of information that person, there was that kind of voluminous information flow coming in was limited to a small amount of people. And now with all of our technology, ordinary people are getting that amount of information. Now, one of the things that we've learned over the course of this is that when we can't take advantage of an opportunity, so opportunities are coming at us, and lots of times if we can't take advantage of most of them right away. So we put some of them off. They stay, oh, we've got this in, and most of the time we hold it in our head. We teach people not to hold it in their head if it's a real opportunity. But that's what our brain does first. It kind of holds on. Oh, that's an opportunity.
As David Allen says, your head is a crappy office space.
Right. But we first naturally, kind of think, okay, I want to take advantage of that opportunity sometime. I can't do it now. So it kind of sits there rattling around more or less in our memories. And one of the hardest things to do is to get even highly effective, highly disciplined people to let go of an opportunity. Our brains don't like to let go of potential opportunities because I may need that someday. That might be useful to me someday. I might find it meaningful someday. We don't like to let go of stuff that's opportunities. And when we do have to let go, most of us feel an experience of grief. If I have since I want to have a long weekend at the beach this summer, well, if I have that as an intention, may even, pick some dates I'm going to do it, and then something shows up in my life that I think, that's not the best use of my time to do that this summer. Letting go of that is going to cause me some grief. Even if I'm doing something great, even if I'm taking that time to visit one of my children who just has, added a child to their family. Even if I'm taking on a great opportunity like that, I'm going to feel grief of the loss of the other opportunity. All of those opportunities and our imagined opportunities out there are ultimately uncertain. What's going to happen in the future is ultimately uncertain. So it's the difference between a statistic and a probability. A statistic is a measurement of something that's happened. So we can take, a scientist can collect samples of temperature measurements that have been recorded all over the world for the past 100 years, do the math on them and say, okay, the climate has warmed in the last X number of years by 1 degree centigrade. That's a statistic. And so statistics are based on what's happened in the past. And the accuracy of a statistic is how accurately did you collect the data. If you've collected enough data from reliable sources and then did your math right, and it's not complicated math, it's not quantum math, it's arithmetic for the most part, then your statistic's going to be valid and useful. As soon as you step into, you cross from what happened in the past and what's happening in this moment to what's going to happen 10 minutes ago, that's probability.
Okay, right.
And now we have no idea what's going to happen.
Right. Okay, so back to, a couple of episodes ago, you were talking about the 24/7 news,
Yes.
right? It used to be just a few hours a day with actual reporting, factual stuff. Now it's being filled in with all kinds of stuff.
Right. And it's being filled with all kinds of people telling you what's going to happen in the future.
Exactly. It's not certain, but you buy it because it's easy for your brain to absorb. You don't have to go through the thinking and sorting, all of that.
Because uncertainty is really upsetting to our brains. Because uncertainty means that there are opportunities out there we don't know how to handle, and there are risks out there we don't know how to avoid. And So when we think about the future's all uncertainty. Someone may be approaching our doors right now to tell us a loved one's dying. We have a plan. We think we're going to spend another X number of minutes on this podcast. Someone may knock on our door in a moment. Or a plane could crash in the front yard. That's happened to people before. Or planes crashed on their house. Or all of us who were in New York City on 9/11, we all had, 10 million of us had plans for that day. And boom, those plans all evaporated in an instant. So that's why our brains don't like that at all.
Okay, so our brains more or less feel out of control. And when they're out of control, we try to get back into control. Is that when we enter this phase of grief? Maybe just in a different, not as extreme as death. Maybe it, again, back to like job loss or something that's going on in the financial markets or something like that feels destabilizing. We go through those 5 stages.
Right. And denial is the first one.
Yeah.
It's that you feel uncertain, but you don't have to. I have the answer. I can. This is going to be true. If you do this, if you believe this, if you follow my prescription for financial wealth, if you drink this green, slime algae, you'll have better health. If you all of these predictions out there that come with certainty.
I'm working with a realtor right now and very confident that the house is the best thing to invest in. Mm-hmm. But I know that that's not completely true, right? You could invest in the S&P, and that might be a better decision right now. We're not living in the 70s or 80s.
And so I work with people who live with uncertainty, and that's the people who are doing big money investing. And as much as they might tell you that they know exactly what's going to happen, buy gold, buy Bitcoin, buy buy an S&P index fund, buy a house, as much as they're certain, they are doing what's called hedging, because they understand that there's uncertainty. So that's what Warren Buffett does all day long. He's investing in a broad portfolio of things that have statistically done well in the past. They have a statistical movement forward, and may even have been, when you do an analysis of their business, they've been underperforming. So there's a prediction that if you invest in them, they'll take that performance they've been doing and perhaps accelerate it. But Berkshire Hathaway's invested in a huge range of things.
Right. And then, of course, you're offsetting the potential losses when you're diversifying.
So there's denial. Yeah, this can't be true. Anger is when something bad has happened and you can't deny it anymore. Mm-hmm. So now you look for somebody to blame. And that's an earthquake happens, no one's to blame. But if your house collapses, you can blame the builder. You can blame the city for not having good earthquake construction codes to keep the builder in line.
That's why I like golf. you hit a bad shot and there's nobody to point the finger at. You messed that shot up, man. I mean, maybe it's the ball, maybe it's the club. No, it's you. But yeah, I mean, to your point, you're right. When you lose control, it is so much easier to just lash out and point the finger out the window instead of looking in the mirror.
Right. And I'm
Right.
sure you've been with golfers or seen them around you that when they hit a bad shot, they blame somebody for coughing. They blame, right?
It doesn't go away. There's no escaping the yeah.
Yeah. No, good character on you that you own it. But a lot of people will go straight into blame because they don't want to take responsibility for themselves. And so we do have various levels of willingness to take responsibility for ourselves. And that's a cognitive difference that we can have. So that's the second stage, blame. The third stage, bargaining, is if
I think I have to correct. I think you meant anger. The second stage is anger.
what did I call it?
And then third
Denial,
is
anger
and then third
is bargaining. Bargaining is we're experiencing something potentially, risky or bad, but we have an imagination that we have more control than we do. Have you ever watched a golfer hit a slice and then go like this? As if they're trying to pull the ball over.
Of course, I've been there.
That's a classic bargaining reaction. Right. In that case, it's magical thinking, which is part of bargaining.
There is something comforting about it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like you're speaking to the ball. The ball is hearing you.
Yes. And it somehow makes you feel like you have some control. You're not just watching. You hit the shot, all of your control left the second the club hit the ball, but your brain doesn't want to give up control. So yeah, that's your brain's reaction to not wanting to lose control. So that's why we often hold on to investments for too long.
Okay.
Because if I don't want to experience the loss. Well, I may have already experienced the loss, but I don't want to own the loss. That's why it's hard to break up with somebody.
This could be hoarding.
Could be, oh yeah. Well, right. Hoarding. Yeah, it's you're trying not to let go of a loss, or you're trying not to let go of something that might create a loss in the future,
which leads into some depression here.
Right. And Stage depression is when your brain finally realizes, I don't have a play here.
Right. It sinks in. This is where we're at.
Yeah. I don't have a move here. But
fully exposed.
Yes. But if I take an action, it will you're acknowledging the death of whatever it is, the death of
right now there is no control.
Right, your death of a relationship, death of an opportunity, death of having lost money, death of betting that the horse will win. It's our brain's trying to hold into control.
You feel helpless.
Yeah, but your brain, even in depression, you haven't completely let go. You're paralyzed. Well, you're numb because you don't have a move now. You don't know what to do, but you haven't completely surrendered to the loss.
Mm-hmm. So
You've
this is when it's
surrendered to you may have surrendered to the fact that you don't have a move.
right. So then
But
you can't get out of bed.
yeah,
You're numb to the world. What's the
yeah,
point?
yeah.
How do you eventually, how do you get out of that?
Kubler-Ross recognized that people did mostly come to acceptance,
Mm-hmm.
which is the end stage, eventually. Not everybody, but most people would come out. Well, we all know people who have died in denial. And those are the people who, when the doctor tells them there are no more treatments, and someone tells them green slime will kill their cancer, they'll pour down green slime. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
they stay in denial. Um, uh, uh, and uh, they'll believe the confident story that, oh, really, the pharmaceutical industry doesn't want you to get better or wants to,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, doesn't want you to know this miracle cure exists because they make billions of dollars on, that, the treatments the doctors are recommending.
Mm-hmm.
So that's denial. Anger is when the doctors say, we don't have any more treatment for you.
Mm-hmm.
And, well, what do you mean you don't? You have to. Think harder, try harder. Um,
That's the acceptance
pivot to
part,
the
right?
area.
So it might not be something so positive, but you've got to accept it, right?
Oh,
You either accept it or you just stay depressed.
the acceptance is that you accept that reality is harsh. You're going to
Mm-hmm.
die. That's the harshest, usually, reality. You accept that you're going to die. You accept that you lost a lot of money in an investment. You accept that maybe you have a chronic health condition that's not going to kill you, but you're not going to get better from.
Mm.
And you have to accept how you're going to live that way.
You're
Um,
accepting the situation,
right.
but
Accepting you're never going to get into the PGA.
you're acknowledging it and you're finding ways to move forward despite the lack of predictability that you once had,
Right.
right?
Right. You're accepting uh, the unpleasant reality.
Which is harder for your brain, but now you're developing resilience, right?
Yes.
Like there is light at the end of the tunnel here.
Yeah. No, that's uh, the people who have a high degree of resilience and a high tolerance for risk and uncertainty make a lot of money running hedge funds.
Right.
um, so there's now risk tolerance goes both ways because there are people losing money who all day long in gambling casinos because they don't understand the probability of the mathematics. That the mathematics, there actually isn't, that they create the illusion, a gambling casino creates the illusion that you can win. But all of those games are designed that if you play them long enough, you give away your money at negative 5% interest,
Right.
for the most part, and sometimes more.
Mm-hmm.
But it looks like you're winning sometimes. And maybe if I can just stay on this win streak.
Mm-hmm.
Um, uh, but that's denial of the math,
Right.
of how the math actually works. Yeah, we know we don't like uncertainty. We don't like to think. We want sure things. When people tell us, and act confident that they know what's really right or what you should do or what the secret path is to that nobody else knows. Somehow other people don't have access to the internet, I guess, and just you and these three people do have access. Our brains like that.
Right. We
Our
see
brains want
simplicity, stability. Makes sense. And
that
it's like a cognitive shortcut that we can use, right?
Yeah,
Understanding it helps us avoid the ambiguity.
And that's false confidence is actually a winning strategy. Mm-hmm. And you've heard the expression con man.
Of course.
It goes back in the day. Con is short for confidence. Mm-hmm. Somebody shows up in River City with a really good story and a huge amount of confidence and swindles the whole town. That happened way before the internet. We've always been susceptible to people who are warm, friendly, and confident. And the warm and friendliness makes us feel safe, and the confidence pulls down the anxiety about uncertainty. They're telling us how things are really going to work, how you can really be successful.
Well, that's it for today's episode. Frank, thanks for your time today, and everybody listening in, we hope to see you in the next one.